Upturn Fund's Caribbean Investment Summit 2022 is hosted by Leadership Outside Consulting, which is a joint venture of Upturn Funds Caribbean and Leadership Outside Consulting. Upturn Funds believe that the importance of the role of business lies in sustainable development that creates a better society for all that are involved. It is with this solid belief system that we focus our energy on creating and teaming up with other organizations that seek to solve many societal problems with solutions that benefit people from all socioeconomic standings. At this time, I would like to introduce our presenter, His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Thomas, and to my right, His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Andre Thomas. He is a UN Peace Ambassador, and in this role, he functions as the Director General for Global Finance and Projects for a UN NGO that is part of ECOSOC. He also functions as a UN Peace Ambassador attached to the UN Vienna office for an UN NGO specializing in transportation. He's a leading strategy, organizational and development consultant and expert. His books on the subject include the 12 kinds of leaders that shape the destiny of nations, the leadership accent principle, the organizational visionary, and leading nations into economic dignity. He's also the co-founder of Cleon Group Incorporated, a group of companies that transfer wealth to communities through construction, infrastructure development, and financing. He's also the co-founder of Cleon Foundation, which creates initiatives that provide affordable housing for marginalized communities, leadership empowerment for young people, women, and wholeness of communities. He is the head and senior inspector of the Eastern Caribbean office of the Organization of Human Rights Defense, which is an organization with the purpose to investigate human rights abuse and misuse, creating projects and plans of action to help resolve any such abuses occurring around the world. This organization is an affiliate partner of NATO, Command United Nations, Interpol, and ECOSOC. I now hand over to His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Andre Thomas to make his presentation, after which I will introduce our additional speakers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jennifer. And I actually want to welcome the press. It's great to see you all here. And I want to also acknowledge our key sponsor, executive sponsor, Republic Bank. We are very grateful for the partnership. And we also want to recognize the various significant public sector, private sector organizations that are here. I'm going to give you a genesis of how Upturn Funds was created and why we felt compelled to have this conference. I have been a student of the evolution of nations for a very long time. It's one of the subjects that I love to study and I love to talk about. And when you study national development, there are many stages within national development, but there are 3 stages I'm going to emphasize on. Now, when nations are born, the first stage is the stage of territorial dignity. And that is when nations battle for territory. And there is a principle that territory is decided by he who wins the battle. I mean, the only reason why we are not speaking Spanish in Barbados is because the English won the war. It really just depends on who wins the war, who wins the battle, determines who actually sets the territory or who runs the territory. But then when a nation passes through that stage, it goes to the next stage, which is the stage of political governance, where you have political dignity. And that's when the people of the nation can actually govern themselves and they can productively govern themselves. So that's the second stage. Then you have the third stage, which is where we believe the Caribbean is. It's the third stage, which is called the stage of economic dignity. And that's where the people of the nation, the people of a nation, the people of a region have developed the mentality and developed the skills to mine the resources in their land, in their sea, and in their people for the economic dignity or the economic prosperity of that particular location. And we are convinced that right now, in terms of the evolution and the growth of the Caribbean, that the Caribbean is at that stage. There are other regions that are past that stage. But the region is at that stage. And we believe that as a firm, that we can make a significant contribution to that. Now, when any nation that has, or any region that has achieved a measure of economic dignity, achieved that because of a critical mass of leaders from multiple spectrums, and not just this political spectrum, the private sector spectrum, and all actually came together to really create this. And at Upturn Funds, our conviction is that we can actually make a contribution at this very critical time in the development of the Caribbean by being able to provide advisory and by bringing investment, bringing in joint ventures that would mine the resources in the lands, in the seas, and in the people of this region for their economic development. So there's a way we do what we do. And we have decided, as we launch within the region, to really launch by having this event. And this event will bring in excess of 5 billion in investment, possible investment actually, to the region. Now, we have focused on several sectors that we deem extremely important. And we have sought to model or structure what we do in a way that the region can maximize benefits. Because at the foundation of the company, there is a philosophy. And the philosophy of the company is that we must work for the economic dignity, the economic development of the nation. We believe that we should structure models in which money stays in the country. As much money as possible can stay in the country, and you want to bring money into the country. So I'm just going to go very briefly through several sectors or several tracks of the actual conference that are of great note. Now, this conference is actually supported, has bipartisan support within the US Congress. Congressman Green will be attending the conference. He is the author and key sponsor of the bipartisan bill, the Nearshore Bill, which seeks to bring manufacturing jobs for the US from Asia to the Latin America and to the Caribbean. And he has great ideas on how that can happen with the support of the United Nations, with support of the US developmental finance. We also have one of the most prominent Caribbean politicians, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, who as well would be speaking at the event as well. And there may be more from the US Congress who will take part in the event. So there's a very broad support for the purposes and the aims of this particular event. Now, the first track that we'll cover within the conference would be the manufacturing track, what do we need to do to create and turn the region into a manufacturing hub for the USA. There are great possibilities. It can happen, and so we're actually looking at that. And the way we structure what we do is that all the elements for deal making are brought together because we are a venture capital firm and we do not believe in having conferences. Our strength is not to have conferences that define policy. There are others who that's their strength. So we're not a conference that focuses on policy making. We're a conference that focuses on deal making. And so that is our focus. So all the elements required for deal making would be brought at the conference so that in each one of the tracks, at the end of the event, there are actually deals, the MOUs, there are outcomes that can be measured, that can be looked at, that come out of the event. We are absolutely, completely focused on that, or we would not have the event. We are not policymakers. We are advisory firm and venture capitalists that work for the economic dignity of nations. Our firm is actually our parent firm is based in the US, and our founder and chairman would be speaking very shortly and showing you the vision of the firm. Now, we have decided to be based within Barbados because we felt very strongly that the vision of turning Barbados into a hub for investment and for regional investment really suited the vision of Upturn Funds Caribbean. So we're going to be based within Barbados and function from the Barbados and seek to touch every island and nation within CARICOM. Now, our first track really deals with manufacturing. And in terms of manufacturing, we will seek to bring certain core businesses into the region to demonstrate the possibilities that can occur in terms of in the area of US manufacturing. Now, we have seen a level of that being done within the Dominican Republic, where you have there's certain fashion lines that are done within the DR and exported to the US. That can happen within the region. I don't see why that can happen within the region. And we are working to bring some ventures to the region in this area. So that's number one. Number two, we actually have a second track, which is, I believe, is game changing for the region. And that's the track of being able to leverage US mortgage credit for Caribbean development. Now, what we've succeeded in doing is that we've created a joint venture in which one of the leading US mortgage companies with presence in many, many states, over 40 states, has been able to successfully create a system where US citizens can use their US mortgage credit and purchase homes in Costa Rica. Our chairman would actually speak more about this. And we have been able to come together with them, create a JV called Landmen Finance that would do the same thing for the Caribbean, whereby US citizens and number one, Caribbean diaspora. There's over 11 million Caribbean diaspora in the USA. And at the conference, we'll be launching Landmen Finance that would enable them within 2 days, to be able to access credit, to purchase homes, retail, and very soon, commercial as well, in the Caribbean. I believe that is set to really affect the region. And we at this event would be registering real estate brokers. Now, real estate developers, construction companies who want to participate in this, and they'll become authorized reps that can cross-sell this particular product. I believe this is actually game-changing. We also have various other sectors. We actually have the solar sector, in which we are working with one of the largest, most influential solar companies in the world, and that provides 100% financing for solar mega plants and 300 watts and above, and will create solar factories, and backed by the Abu Dhabi Development Fund. And this is very, very important. So we are sharing that at the conference. They'll be represented at the conference. And we are actually looking to create these type of factories within the region, and it comes with 100% financing. We also have another area, which I will let our chairman talk about, which deals with waste to diesel, which is groundbreaking, and I'll have him speak about that. And then we then have the area of now cybersecurity. I will have him speak about that. And then we then deal with agriculture. And our agricultural partner is here. We already have done a successful project within Bahamas. And Danielle Abrahams is here, and she's going to definitely speak about the possibilities in the area of agriculture. We also have a panel where agriculture is concerned, where we'll talk about access to funding in the area of agriculture. So farmers and those within the industry can come and learn about areas where they can access significant finance actually for the development of the sector within the nations. Now, we also have infrastructure. We have, because our goal is to bring finance into the region, bring development to the region, we have created partnerships that will provide with the various companies that will provide 100% financing for road construction, 100% and also financing for the development of smart cities. So we'll be presenting all of that at this event. And I think I've shared enough for now. And I believe my business partner and the chairman of Upton Funds would really go into greater depth and elaborate on some of the other projects that we have and the possibilities that we have. Okay, thank you. And I'll be happy to take any questions when it comes to the question and answer segment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. Testing. Thank you, His Excellency, Ambassador Dr. Andre Thomas, for your presentation. And now I would like to invite our chairman, co-chairman of Upturn Funds Caribbean, Raphael DeAngelis. Raphael DeAngelis is a seasoned entrepreneur who brings decades of experience with projects that range from real estate, technology, and water treatment. The common denominator of his work is innovation. His projects span the globe. He has served as co-creator of Green Sand Plus and has developed real estate concepts in New York City. He is currently the chairman and co-founder of Upturn Funds. In his career, he advises major corporations like Manor Group, McCallie Realty, REIT, Top Beauty, Fujitsu Corporation, Infrasan Company, Purdue Kumika, and Raphael can pronounce that properly for me, and that's an organization in Brazil. Anman and Whitney, Louis Berger Group, Douglas Elliman, chairwoman of the Office of Retail Group, and others. Assembling brilliant teams, to implement disruptive vision and concepts that he adopts or co-creates. Raphael believes that having a team with great management skills is a key competitive differentiator. When the time comes to deliver impactful interventions in a fraction of the time large-scale transformations typically take. Through the engagement of key stakeholders, architects, politicians, financial institutions, and real estate developers, he has successfully managed to craft an inclusive network of visionaries, investors, and decision makers, which acts as a powerful enabler behind the construction of fabrics of breakthrough projects. Whether it's in an architect project or data mining for artificial intelligence, Mr. DeAngelis believes that innovation comes from less corrupt mind. I have the belief, he states, that if you know too much about a subject, you are not enabled to innovate due to a preset concept of right and wrong. It is a constant challenge to see the world around us outside the boxes that we ourselves create. End of quote. At this time, I would like to introduce our co-chairman and founder of Upturn Funds, Mr. Raphael DeAngelis.
The biggest story here is when me and Dr. Thomas met, we thought about in how can we change in how development is done in emerging economies. This is really what we really wanted to understand. And what we saw is opportunities to actually not fight with politicians and policies into the country, but guide business structured that can actually bring more of those economics benefits to the region. And when we look at projects like Trash to Diesel that has been going on in the Dominican Republic, where they recycle a big percentage of the plastic into their waste, into biodiesel, and it's sold to Europe in a future contract. And we ask ourselves, how come not other Caribbean countries has adopted this technology? It was a $200 million investment in the Dominican Republic that has incredible results on it. And then we thought, maybe if we make people see those projects, if we bring those organizations in and work with governments, and work with the private businesses, we'll be able to get them on traction to not just be in the Dominican Republic, but also to bring diesel into Guyana, to bring diesel into Barbados, in countries that has an enormous amount of trash, and that trash can become fuel for their own country or be exported and solving a plastic, at least helping solving a piece of the plastic crisis in the Caribbean region and bringing jobs and bringing investments, and it was with that idea that we put this conference together. So when we looked at, for example, the creation of Landman with US First Mortgage, a company out of Boca Raton, what I talked to Tony, the chairman, is how can we streamline the process of Caribbeans, in the United States to buy homes in a region? And this trigger also economic development because a lot of them has plans in some ways of retiring that region. And we find that the biggest deterrent of them is the process of acquiring mortgage locally when they are not a resident of that country anymore. So we said, we can create a product, Raphael, that can be taken by US, buyers or packaged in the US financial market, which guarantee that there'll be demand for this debt, which means that we can bring a lot of money into the region. And what we are actually happy to hear as we start discussing this prospect of business is that local banks as well has an interest in to participate in this program. So I would like you guys to understand that it's not just about presenting ideas here. It's about presenting projects that are currently in existence or it's about to exist that can trigger economic development cycles into the region. I cannot emphasize enough the need of a maritime corridor for the Caribbean. In philosophy of development, without infrastructure, there is no development. And when Dr. Thomas was talking about the creation of a nation, of a country, in the very late stage of a nation, they come back together. They might fight in the beginning, but in the end, today, in the world we live in, economic blocks development is a safety net. And the Caribbean has to do more to be more integrated. Because in the end of the day, you guys can count on each other more than anywhere else in the world. So the question we start asking me and Dr. Thomas is, if I extract wood from Guyana, where should I process that wood that can bring economic prosperity here? Maybe I can process that wood in Trinidad and Tobago. and I can export this wood for the US market. But guess what? When we looked at that, we need a maritime corridor connecting Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana to promote developing the two countries. And today, the system does not address that issue. It's been many nations, but really not integrated enough to create an economic powerhouse by the economic cycles that each country in the region has something special to offer. So at Upturn Funds, in the Caribbean section of this that is run by Dr. Thomas, is all we focus here into bringing projects and advising into those projects, into implementing vision that it's good for the common good, for all people. Particularly, we focus a lot into how can we uplift the lower income class. That's very important for us, because for us, helping money trickle down to all classes is very important. But making sure that money trickles down to the bottom is even more important, because this is truly economic prosperity. It's when a society reaches a balance, into the underdeveloped section of the society, the underdogs, I call it. This in every single country that we've seen, it's when countries start achieving great prosperity. And we try to do that by bringing businesses that can affect in some ways those particular segments of society that a lot of times it's overlooked into economic prosperity projects. Not saying that there isn't a place for economic prosperity project where, the benefits can trickle less, but we are trying to add to that one by addressing the issue to, can we create something that also help this segment of society? And this is why we are involved in areas of housing. We believe that the Caribbean is an incredible opportunity for housing and modular homes for the poor. So we are doing studies on this with organizations in how can we create a revolutionary housing system for low-income families in very massive quantities to solve the housing shortage problems in the region. We are also involved into we redesign and propose two designs into the redevelopment of Georgetown of Guyana. We look at Guyana as one of the greatest opportunities for the Caribbean to really solidify its position in the world, because the wealth that the Guyanese people is about to receive would need an enormous amount of people to build their country on infrastructure, on energy, concrete, and they also have incredible capacity to develop an agriculture business for the rest of the Caribbean and the world. Also, mining perspective in Suriname and Guyana are very large. And this has the support of a very large oil discovery. So the question here is, how can we integrate more? How can all the countries in the Caribbean can provide this service to this nation instead of being given to outside the region? And the reason I really focus on this, it has very little to do with business for business. It's more to do because I'm Brazilian. So I would like to take at a canvas like I see in the Caribbean today and show an example to my own country, how development can be done, where prosperity can be better addressed into all classes within the society. And some of those projects that you guys are going to be seeing, it's actually a supportive project for economic growth, like the Maritime Project. And other projects that you guys is going to be seeing is addressing social issues like trash disposal, and how to solve this, or infrastructure development, that a percentage of that income, it's directly brought down to the people that, that needs the most, which is, the working class, to the development. This is what makes us a different kind of firm, because our purpose is always, how can we do a project that we see that is bring and give back to that region? We have been discussing even methodology of financing mining in the region, because today, the way the model works, the mining exposure risk is so high. So when you sign your land for a mining extraction for gold, most of it doesn't stay in the Caribbean. It's owned by a foreign company that took the risk. What if we can level the field here? What if there is solutions that we can bring more of that wealth locally instead of all going back? This is a project that we are researching today in how to develop those models. And we realized something very quickly, that in your region, government and business are equal partners in the development. So they both need to be talking the same language of integration among governments on the export and imports, regionally. integration into manufacturing process. So I can process partially of a product that I want to export in one country and easily transport it into another one. Based on that, we created the term that we call it within our group, the golden triangle at this stage, which we see being Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, and Guyana in the first stage of maritime map that would be interesting to form, because those three countries can offer the support needed for Guyana's stage 1 development phase. And eventually this triangle can be developed into other regions. So I'm able to move a cargo ship with a container from one state to another, one country to another, without going through the convoluted and makes no sense container system of the Caribbean. So it is that we stand for. And the conference, it's already arranged that we bring United States government, big banks and businesses, and also entrepreneurship companies to actually start talking to each other in every level, and hopefully make major announcements that more trash in the Caribbean region can be recycled, that more plastic in the region, instead of being in the dumpster, can be converted into diesel. You know, that infrastructure projects is taken into consideration to take contracts to local large national builders instead of giving to foreign companies that take most of the profit away from them. So let's create national champions within the Caribbean that actually can do mega construction projects for those countries. Let's create energy infrastructure within the Caribbean in the solar panel industry that can allow the country to become more green, but also the possibility of eventually being an exporter of energy to other parts of the world. There's so much potential, but yet we know that unless we do events like this that bring all the parties together, our chances of succeeding is very limited. And this is what we hope to achieve at the Upturn Funds Conference in August.
Our next presenter is Ms. Danielle Abraham. She is the Executive Director for Volcani International Partnership. Danielle has spent her career in Israel dedicated to connecting Israeli expertise to needs in developing countries. At present, she is the Executive Director of Volcani International Partnership, an NGO dedicated to promoting Israeli agricultural innovation and expertise for the benefit of Israel and the world. Prior to this position, Danielle was the co-chair of the annual ID2 conference and co-founder of Impact Investing Israel. Working to develop the impact investment sector, Danielle started her career in Israel as a senior policy advisor in Moshav, Israel's Agency for International Development Cooperation at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In this role, she represented Israel as a guest speaker at the UN, the OECD, and German Development Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, I now hand over Danielle to the floor, and you can make your presentation.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Raphael has, Jennifer, thumbs up. Shall I start? I'll just wait for an indication that you guys can hear.
I think they can hear you. I think they can hear you. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. So let's go. So I think when we're talking about food and agriculture, you know, it's no secret that the Caribbean region faces numerous challenges. And of course, together with the COVID pandemic and of course the Russian invasion of Ukraine, that's only served to contribute to rising food insecurity globally, and the Caribbean is no exception. In addition to that, we must remember, you know, that the Caribbean region as a whole is incredibly reliant on food imports, and high food prices are really affecting people's ability to afford a nutritious diet. So I think, you know, coming from Israel, the key question we are asking is, what can we do about these challenges? And the key question we must ask ourselves together is, how can we develop agricultural sectors across the Caribbean that are not only resilient and that can not only address this issue of food insecurity, but can also position agriculture as a key sector for investment so it can drive real economic growth? How can we attract people and the young entrepreneurs to move into agriculture with excitement and see it not as something, you know, that their grandparents did, but something that's exciting, that's high tech and can generate great profit? So it might seem that the challenge is quite great. However, I can share that from our recent engagements with stakeholders across the region, we do genuinely believe that these challenges could represent wonderful opportunities to invest in agricultural development. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Israel, but one of the key ethoses or concepts we have here is about turning challenges into opportunities. I mean, you only have to look at the state of Israel, which is a tiny country, 2/3 desert with the associated water shortages, to see, that's a huge challenge. But what Israel did is it turned it into an opportunity. Israel has since emerged as a global leader in water use efficiency for agriculture, really through tireless investment and innovation. Now, I think in addition to that approach and attitude about turning these challenges into opportunities for investment and development, I believe that Israel can contribute value to the Caribbean in a number of ways. And really, that is our role at Volcani International Partnerships. I mean, we're an Israeli NGO, and our mission is to address issues of global food and nutrition insecurity using Israeli agricultural experience, expertise, and innovation. And to my mind, I believe that there are several ways that we can do this, but there are three that I would like to mention and touch upon today. I think the first way we can bring value from Israel is really through agricultural innovation. We believe, from everything that we know about agriculture across the region, that there is great scope to transition the agricultural practices to more modern, more sustainable, and more innovative for both productivity and profitability. And it's really important for me to emphasize that when we talk about innovation, this can be both high-tech and low-tech. It doesn't have to be the most high-tech innovation that can really create transformational results. And there are many innovations that we can share here from Israel. Now, the second element I think that is critical for success in any investment that we're going to make in the agricultural sector is training. I mean, the key to any successful agricultural transformation, make sure that the farmer has access to quality training and to experts, whether they're extension officers or other, to provide them with ongoing advice. Now, this is a very large challenge across the region for numerous reasons. And one of the initiatives that we are hoping to launch as a pilot later this year is called Israel AgriWeb, which will strive to address this issue by providing online agricultural training and advisory services and provide access for farmers across the region to Israel's top agricultural experts. And the third way I believe that we could really contribute value as we think about investment into the agricultural sector is thinking about advisory, sharing lessons on what enabled Israel to create this agricultural transformation. And one of the key ideas I believe that could hold great value for the region is to invest in and support cohorts of leading agricultural entrepreneurs across the region, pioneering agribusiness leaders. These are the people that are going to create the change and lead the charge and hopefully be able to share the impact around with others. Now, I believe that to realize this impact that I've referenced, we really need opportunities like the summit that is coming up, because we need to be able to convene stakeholders from across the public and private spectrum. And we really need a space to come together with a common goal to realize more productive, profitable, and sustainable food systems for the Caribbean. And here at Volcani International Partnerships and from Israel, we are willing and determined to contribute value in any way that we can. Thank you very much.
International partnership. Our third speaker, I'm sure he's still connecting his flight in Miami. I just want to speak a little bit about Mr. Haynes and then have His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Thomas talk specifically about that strategic relationship. Mr. Haynes is a Guyanese-born professional with 30+ years of senior management and executive level experience as a business leader. He's a certified public accountant who holds a master's degree in public administration from Harvard Kennedy School of Government and a master in financial economics from the University of Oxford. He's an adjunct professor in finance and accounting at the University of the District of Columbia and a public lecturer in leadership and management. Mr. Haynes has served as chief executive officer for a 250-person firm in Washington, D.C., specializing in accounting and financial management. As CEO, he was responsible for providing strategic, financial, and operational leadership for the company. He led a team of executives to consider major decisions, including acquisitions, mergers, joint ventures of large-scale expansion. Mr. Haynes has worked extensively in over 20 countries, providing accurate analysis of budgets, reports, and financial trends and operational procedures for government and private industries. For over 10 years, he successfully led a team of professionals providing accounting and financial support to a global organization with offices in over 100 countries. He also served as an advisor to the government of Guyana on local content. Mr. Haynes is the founder and chairman of New Haven Merchant Bank, one of two investment banks located in Georgetown, Guyana. I'll have His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Thomas speak specifically about that relationship, and then we open the floor to the press for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, okay, Jennifer. Now, unfortunately, Mr. Haynes had a delayed flight, and he does send his apologies. He really wanted to be here. Now, New Haven Merchant Bank is a new merchant bank that has just been awarded its license by the Guyanese government. Mr. Haynes, as you know, leads a very, very successful firm that does the audits, does the books for 138 of the US embassies globally. And so we have entered into a partnership, a strategic partnership with New Haven Merchant Bank as we plan and work together to structure investment transactions and deals for the development of Guyana. We have a strong presence within Guyana. Our construction company, which is a subsidiary of Upton Funds, is based in Barbados, but we have an office based in Guyana. We have a Guyanese company that fulfills local content law that's based there. And we intend to do a lot of work across Guyana. And we have formed many partnerships across Guyana. And we intend to be very, very active beginning from this year. In fact, our next investment conference in October would be a natural resources conference for Guyana that will focus on the logging sector, the agriculture sector, the mining sector, and real estate development. So that's going to be in October. And so that gives you a sense of our commitment to the development of Guyana.
Thank you, Ambassador Thomas. And now at this time, we want to open the floor to the media to pose your questions. So as soon as you can go ahead and you can pose your questions to our online panel and presenters and His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Andre Thomas. So when you speak, you can stand and say which media house you are from and your name, and then you can go ahead and pose your question. And if we can have Mr. Willie Greenwich to grab a mic and let's ask facilitating media. Thank you.
Good morning. It's Marlon Morgans. I want to think of what time frame are we looking at to start into this $5 billion investment in the region. And I know you mentioned earlier that you're not focused on policy, but one of the issues that we know we have in the Caribbean is some stumbling blocks when it comes to getting investment on projects off the ground. What assurance is there that these potential investors will not be encountering this kind of setup?
Okay, thank you. Those are very good questions. In answering the first part of the question, the investments in these various sectors will be presented at the conference. We've looked at the various tracks and the value of the investment that will be in the room and the possibilities that would be in the room for governments and private sector to engage and to actually make deals and create joint ventures at the conference. So it will be available from the conference. And so that's in answer to your first question. In answer to your second question, we see our role as a private sector advisory firm that seeks to implement a government policy. However, we have encountered, and we know we will encounter, areas where in order for investment to actually flow into the country, that there are certain changes that need to be done. And in those cases, we have advised and will advise. And so we advise when policy becomes an obstacle to economic development. And when that's the case, we would always advise. And so that's it. I hope that answers your question.
Shane Jones, CBC News.
Thank you.
When you spoke, you talked about injecting $5 million into integrated Caribbean. You know, that seems like a huge feat. You made mention of a lot of companies that are already on board. You spoke about a mortgage company in the US who is operating in many states. You spoke about a solar company who is one of the best in the world. And when you went to infrastructure, you spoke about companies already willing to give 100% financing. Then you spoke of a construction company in Barbados that operates a union, but we didn't get any names. So we're just trying to find out if you could give us some details about those companies that you mentioned that are already on board.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so these are companies that we have JV relationships with. So example, in the area of, say, the mortgage finance, we already have a JV that has created Landmain Finance that will be providing, and this company actually has over 4 million people in the States that actually have mortgages from it.
Dr. Thomas,
and
can
so
you hear me?
It's a very, very large company. And
can you hear me?
It's one of the largest in the States in terms of just focusing on mortgages. And so that's one of the actual companies. In the area of now solar, we have Sky Power, and they work with us. And we also work with the Abu Dhabi Development Fund to bring these particular projects to light. And this area of solar is huge because what we like about it is that it creates solar factories that have tremendous potential. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that it's a Muslim holiday, my good friend, Dr. Omar, would have been presenting here. He actually wanted to be here. And he's based in Abu Dhabi, and he would have presented and shared about the possibilities for this region in terms of solar mega plants. And that's a great possibility. You also have Blue Ridge Partners. They are JV partner in the area of the trash to diesel. They currently function within the DR. They have a significant plant there, $200 million investment. And they have a vision to build 5 of those across the region. So that's a great possibility there. And the diesel is already sold before the plant is created because there are future contracts within Europe for that. We also have within the construction sector, we have 3 major partners. We have a partnership with Anyway Solutions. They are an Israeli company, been around for 70 years. And we have come up with a program that will provide 100% financing for road projects and infrastructure projects across the Caribbean. And they will be represented at the event as well. Our construction company, which we've just created to house these particular ventures, is called Pleon Group Inc. And we've just incorporated it, and it'll be functioning out of Barbados. Our head office will be here, and we have a Pleon Inc. Barbados. We have a Pleon Development Limited Trinidad, and we have a Pleon Limited Jamaica. And very soon we'll have a Pleon NV Suriname as we seek to work in this space of bringing financing and infrastructure projects. We also have various other partners that we'll be announcing at the event, who we are signing JVs with as we speak, that will bring groundbreaking technology to the region, because we're really focused on how can we bring the cost of construction down, and how can we bring great innovative technology coming to the region that other construction companies can partner with, and kind of build the infrastructure that we need, and really raise up what we call national champions. You know, I remember a conversation I actually had with Raphael, and we were discussing that when you looked at the economic development of cities like Dubai, it was impossible without a national construction champion that had the capacity of building anything the nation needed to build. So that type of capacity it's actually very, very important. There are bridges, there are ports to be built. We want to work and help build some regional champions, that can build anything that needs to be built in this region, and also can naturally finance it. So that's an area that we are actually working in as well. So this gives you a sense. We have in the area of cyber, we have Samanova, and it's a tremendous project because what we do, we actually buy the waste energy between 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning. And we buy that energy that is shedded, it's of no use, it's actually shedded, and we take that energy to do crypto mining with it. And so that's a good possibility for light and power companies, electricity companies within the region that can actually partner with us. And Samanova is a subsidiary of Upton Funds. So there are quite a number of projects that we have in the works that we want to present. As I said, our event is a venture capital event in which we want to, out of the event, see tangible projects. We want to see tangible partnerships formed. We have our philosophy and ethos is to form local relationships from regional relationships, and actually bring finance to turn government policy for economic development into reality. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm not a member of the media. I'm an interested party. And I wanted to follow up on a question from Marlon Madden. I've heard, and there is significant levels of potential investment that is likely
Yes.
to result from your investment.
Yes.
And your event here. but I think government is an important stakeholder in the
Of course.
process
Absolutely.
because they are the policymakers
Absolutely.
and they are the facilitators of any investment. So I still wanted to follow up on his question to ask, what engagements have you been having with government here
Absolutely.
to bring them on board? Because
Absolutely.
to me, it is very critical that you have their buy-in, even if you have the support of the private sector, that's one. And also because I did hear reference to the fact that you're bringing the US government and entrepreneurs from the US here. I also think that the government should be at the table. And therefore, I wanted to ask you, what engagements have you been having with government and with which ministry, if you have been engaging?
Okay, that's a really excellent question. We are engaging with government. The only reason why we have not formally announced, in fact, within this group, sitting on their side, there are folks from government here. The only reason why we have not announced is because we have not signed off on exactly the nature of the partnership and the nature of the engagement. But we are engaging with government. We have spoken to all the major government entities that deal with investment, and they have been very positive. And unfortunately, now some of we were unable to define exactly their role, and but once we do that, the announcements will be on the website. But we have engaged the government, and they are involved, and very soon we'll be announcing the various roles that they will be playing in this development. But that's an excellent question. Thank you.
Okay, and
Have we fund already engaged in some solar projects for the Barbados Water Authority?
sorry,
Could you
sir,
say that again, please?
Isn't the Abu Dhabi fund already engaged with the Barbados Water Authority on solar project up by
Well,
St. John?
okay. I absolutely do not know all the details of what the fund is doing, but this particular project is actually for the Caribbean region. And so it's not really country specific. It is actually, it's open to, and not every country will find it, will have an appetite for it. But there is I believe there's some regional governments that would actually have an appetite for this type of project that would bring in a solar mega plant and a solar factory. Now, the project is a sky-powered project, the company Sky Power. The funding comes from the Abu Dhabi Development Bank. And unfortunately, because of the Muslim holidays, Dr. Omar is not with us. But what I will do, and perhaps we'll invite the press, is that as we near the event, I will be having a special session with some of our other presenters in the area of solar, Mr. Floyd Haynes, and those who could not make it. And we'll have another event that could be live streamed, where we can talk about the possibilities at the conference, and we'll certainly let you know. Thank you.
thank you, Dr. Thomas. Are there any more questions from the media? Go ahead, sir.
I want to find
You get a microphone for him, please. Thanks.
I wanted to find out if you could give us an idea how the projects will be determined for which country, or is that at the conference as well?
Yeah. It really, I mean, the first thing is appetite. The first thing is appetite. Actually, for I mean, different countries at different stages. Different countries have different priorities. The facts on the ground vary, and sometimes an investment fits, sometimes it doesn't fit. But we will be having those discussions. And remember, it's not just for government, it's also for private sector. Example, in the area of, say, real estate, obviously, I mean, government is going to really benefit from a flood of investment coming in the real estate sector. But there are major areas that are just for the private sector. But it really depends on the appetite, the conditions on the ground, and which determines what investment happens in each country. But we are definitely keen to engage with governments across the region and to discuss the possibilities. And I mean, so think of this like a menu at a restaurant. So the event is going to have a menu of various investments for government and also for private sector. So at this, you view the menu, and then you determine what you want to order. And so that's the approach that we take. Yeah.
Okay, if we can have contribution from.
And there's another question.
Raphael De Angelis and.
No. Okay, there's a question over this lady. Yeah.
Good morning, Dr. Thomas. Good morning. I wanted to ask a question with regards to, I heard Raphael made mention of the fact that these projects are, the whole aim is for them to touch the community and societies at a lower level. My question is, considering these projects are such a large scale, and we know that they will definitely bring economic dignity to Caribbean regions, can he elaborate then on how we plan to execute it in a way that is going to be able to touch the small man? Are those businesses going to be allowed to be a part of projects? Are things going to be opened up so that they can benefit?
Of course, yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's a very good question. That is how it's really based on how you structure it. So take an example. So we have created a mining division, and we are very excited about it. The former Minister of Mining for the government of Suriname and the former head of the state mining company heads that particular division of Upton Funds Caribbean. And we're very excited, that's Mr. Sergio Akimboto, and we're very excited about being able to change the dynamic because as Raphael actually mentioned, the typical model when it comes to foreign investment in mining is 80, 20, 90, 10. I mean, so the concession holder has 10%. Well, we have a model that we have created that can change that. And at this event, we're bringing one of the largest mining banks in the world that loves our model, a CIBC, to the actual conference. They're the 5th largest mining bank in the world and interested in funding mining projects within the region. And so it's just the way you do it. So because our ethos is to have more money stay in the region, we plan and seek to structure deals to accomplish that. So it really starts from a philosophical point of view, and then you then create the structure to execute the vision, have profit for the investors, but also have more money stay on ground. Yeah.
Okay, if we can have a contribution from Mr. Raphael De Angelis to that specific question. Thank you.
Yes, I think I really like can you hear me?
De Angelis to that.
Okay, I really like the last question about the social impact for the classes, and I would like to elaborate more on that. You know, when you do venture, you create a business model that others can follow. So when we look at Trash for Diesel, we don't only look about giving money to the Trash for Diesel Corporation. We actually discussed with the founders about the social program that empower other businesses from the local community to be service providers. For example, the biggest challenge of Trash for Diesel, it's sorting the trash. It's selling the trash to the plants where they convert this. And we guide the process from beginning to end. That's a different approach than most organizations. Most organizations will focus just to make sure they get the trash, they process the gas. No, in our organization, we don't work with corporations like this. We work with corporations that have a fundamental influence in every segment of that chain, you know, the logistics chain for the product delivered. So we are interested, can a business model can be created here that local people can develop businesses and they can provide service for this industry. So why do we have to have a guided approach? Because other models had shown that if you have this guided approach, economic benefit for the lower class doesn't usually come back in such a large scale it should be. So, and that's why we have this very active approach into looking the whole system as macro, but also focusing on the micro infrastructure to create sustainability business development in the lower class communities.
Maybe we can also have a contribution from Danielle in relation to how agriculture and the technology can support the small farmers, not just the technical and the large farming operations, but how specifically to build on the question that Dawn asked, how with agriculture in terms of the big, widest vision for training and so on, how will that impact the small farmers? So over to Danielle, and then we will continue. If there are no more questions, then we will bring this press conference to an end. Over to you, Danielle.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. I'll make it very quick. I just believe that from the agricultural practices we have seen on the ground, there is great scope to introduce some very quick wins in the smallholder farmer agriculture across the Caribbean to massively increase productivity and sustainability and therefore profitability. And I think very quickly, if some of these quick wins, when these smallholder farmers don't have to invest huge amounts of money in complicated technology, if they employ these simple approaches, they could see a drastically different bottom line from their agricultural activities. And I would hope that that would encourage them to then expand what they were doing. Training, of course, will be critical in order to make sure that they can do this successfully.
We already have began working in this space within the Caribbean. So Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition, which I lead, and VIP, which is affiliated with Upton Funds Caribbean, right now, we have a project with the Bahamian government. Now, Danielle, if you could speak more about that, I think that would be great. And so they can understand what we're doing within the actual Caribbean. And last year we trained over 2,300 farmers in smart farming. Yeah, so I'll just have Danielle really talk more on that, on what we're doing with the Bahamas. Yeah.
Yes, the government of the Bahamas reached out and Dr. Thomas facilitated the connection and the project through us really at the outset of COVID, when they realized that the interruption on the food systems was going to create greater food insecurity. And the government there has a vision to establish cultivation centers, which will be hubs for production, which will not only, showcase how better to increase your production and profitability, but actually serve as a hub for the farmers to come. And the idea was that we will turn these into demonstration sites. We were actually out in the Bahamas, I think literally last month, on the ground with Minister Sweeting to discuss, how Israel can contribute value to that vision. And it was also on the back of our work engaging with the government in the Bahamas that we initiated this small webinar. It was meant to be a small webinar just for 70 farmers in the Bahamas on smart farming. And I think, what was it, Dr. Thomas? Within 5 days, the link to the webinar went viral, much to my team's dismay, because they suddenly felt quite overwhelmed that we had over 2,600 people sign up in 5 days. And I think that's just a wonderful testament to the desire and willingness of these farmers or smallholder farmers on the ground to learn more. They are hungry for knowledge. They are desperate to obtain new knowledge, new ideas, innovation, technology, and implement them on the ground. If we can be helpful in doing that and see the productivity shift, I think we will see greater profitability and greater opportunities for investment.
One more question, and after Don asks her question, do we have any more questions from the media? Okay. And you can mention the organization from which you are speaking. Thank you. Could you get her another one?
Okay, my question is, we've been speaking about specific projects that would be happening around the region. I know there's still discussions going on with the Barbados government, but have there been any that have been specifically identified for Barbados at this point?
Yeah, there are specific projects that we are discussing. I don't think it's wise for me to really comment on them, but there's a whole variety of projects that we are actually discussing. It's really best when you have signed on the dotted line that you actually announce the project. So there are so many things involved in getting to the place of signing on the dotted line, and then after you sign on the dotted line, executing is also a different story. So there are many things that have been signed that have never been executed. If all the MOUs that government signed were executed, my God, would live in utopia. So so in our thinking is we are the areas that we're discussing. When we get to that stage, when we sign, we'll announce, and then we will work absolutely diligently to turn MOUs into practical reality. And that is something that we're very committed about. As I said, we're a venture capital company. We thrive on execution. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. And just to add to that, as you would have recalled in the presentations, we're not only Barbados focused, but we also regional focus. And likewise, there are discussions and JV discussions with multiple regional countries as well. So not just Barbados. So I just wanted to add that bit as well. Sir, you can go ahead with your question and you can state where you're from.
Yes, Romel Grosvenor, Barbados Guyana Business Focus Group, and also All Greens. I am especially pleased to hear that you're looking to bring $5 billion in investment to the Caribbean. What I would like to know is if you have allocated portions of those investments to different categories, like for instance, construction or agriculture. Have you allocated funds thus far as yet?
Okay. Okay, that's a great question. Yes, the investment is sector driven. It's so the investments for each of the different sectors. So there's actual investment for cyber. There's investment for solar. There's investment for infrastructure. So each of the different sectors there is investment in. The way we operate, we would not bring a track that we do not have investment in or access to capital for, because we're venture capital is what we do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. If there are no more questions from the media, we can go ahead and close the conference. Okay.
And let them know that they can have individual.
Yes, so before we close, I just want to thank each of you for attending, those who have attended from the private sector. I see the BCCI here, and we also see the BCSI here as well, and BIBA representatives. We want to thank you for taking the opportunity and the time to join us. You could have been otherwise taking care of your daily operations, but we want to thank you for taking the time here to join us at this press conference. Want to thank the media for attending CBC Nation in Barbados today, and we look forward to your reporting. And the panel, that is Mr. Raphael De Angelis and Volcani Daniel Abraham and His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Andre Thomas. If you want specific information, sector specific for your individual articles in the various sectors that you cover, you're welcome to speak with him individually at the end of the press conference. So with that, I just want to once again thank the Republic Bank for your partnership with us. And we look forward, as I said, with extending this relationship with you. And we look forward to continue discussions with the Barbados private sector. And also with, I want to thank the Bargai for also attending. Thank you for gracing us with your presence this morning. And we look forward also to speaking with you as well in terms of your needs and how we can support and facilitate your goals and mandates for that organization. So at this time, I want to thank each of you for attending. And at this time, we end the press conference, and we wish you a great day, and we look forward to speaking with you. And we also want to thank those, yes. Oh, we have a question online. Could you, Dr. Lester, if you can just read that question for me? Okay, thank you. Well, those who are watching online, you can email me at jhighland@upturnfunds.com. And if there are any specific or sector-centric questions that you need answer, I will pass those questions on to His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Andre Thomas, Mr. Raphael De Angelis, our co-chairman, and even Danielle Abraham, who is present here today, and we will ensure that we get your questions answered. So once again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining this morning, and to have a great day. And just to know that the presenters are available if you have any sector-specific questions to answer. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
So once again, thank you.